is going on, guys, and welcome to another video of Grim Dawn Ashes of Malmeth. So I'm really excited to talk about this character today. If you haven't been to the stream, you probably haven't seen this character, so I wanted to do this build personally for you guys on the YouTube side that may not have seen this build. This is a character I've had for a while, and I really enjoy this class. I've had him before, Ashes of Malmeth. He's actually been around, I'm pretty sure, since like Alpha and Beta of Grim Dawn. Just back then, the gear and devotions didn't support it as well as it does now to run a vitality build like this. So now it is very decent, and I am growing to love this build very quickly. So this build is basically, like I said, a vitality dot build, and you run around dealing lots of damage and just gaining a lot of that damage back as life. So the clear speed on this is insanely good. For normal trash and like AoE, it's really great. Even on boss fights, the single target isn't terrible at all. It's good enough to where you can tear down bosses and stuff pretty quick. So I'm just really happy with it and how it turned out. By the way, if you guys haven't been to the Twitch, please come by, you should. Something that's pretty cool about that is if you have Amazon Prime, you can actually subscribe to my channel at no extra cost to you, and it helps support me in what I do. So if you guys are interested in that, obviously no pressure, you don't have to. But if you are, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, so let's get into the devotions. Let's get into the skills, and then we'll go into the items. We'll start off with skills first. So as you can see here, on the occultist side, we have 1 point into Curse of Frailty. Again, we don't really worry about pumping this too high. Obviously, with 1 point, it's at 5. And we do have bleed damage in this build, but it's not our primary damage. But it is nice to get that extra bleed resist reduction, and obviously slowing enemy movement speed. The one we care about more is vulnerability. This one here, like I've stated before, normally I don't pump this past 10, because the scaling past 10 on a lot of skills isn't very good. But we didn't really have anywhere else to put these points. And on top of that, we are trying to drop their vitality resist as much as possible, as well as dropping their defensive abilities. So this build, it's a little on the low side for OA, for my liking, I should say, but it's still got enough decent OA to, tear through enemies. So this helps with that. We can drop their defensive ability, and it helps with that lack of OA. Blood of Dreeg, max this as high as you can go. Again, this gives us offensive ability. The OA is really important here. Get some health regen, some healing, really nice. The add-on here, Aspect of the Guardian, definitely worth putting this at least rank 12. So as you can see, we're getting that nice physical resistance. This is going to cover a lot of our poison and acid resistance needs. And then we're getting some vitality damage out of this as well. So it's really, really nice. 14 out of 12 on Cel's Witchfire. And I will have a Grim Tool, so keep in mind with Grim Tools, you can just hold Control Shift, and you can see what all these skills are at without gear added. So you get a better idea of where these points are exactly. So the reason why I put 2 extra points here is because I just had 2 extra points laying around, and this obviously boosts percent vitality damage. 1 point into the second right, so this does give us flat vitality damage on our auto attacks. So I don't always focus on this, but if I'm fighting a beefy boss or something that's kind of durable, and I'm able to vamp through its damage, I can get some nice melee in, which is really nice extra damage, and beat it down a little bit. Sigil Consumption, we max this. Obviously, we're maxing this because this is one of our primary damage dealers, does a ton of vitality damage, and converts a lot of this damage into health. We put 1 point into Destruction. This is good extra damage for 1 point. At rank 7, this gives us, obviously a little bit of Fire Chaos. What's also really cool about this is the set that we're using converts some of our Chaos into vitality damage, so theoretically it's more vitality damage for us. Doombolt, 1 point. You really could go without this ability. You don't have to have it, and I don't think it's worth maxing either. Personally, I think for how much it costs and the cooldown and everything, it's a nice filler skill. It's not bad. I do like it whenever I have a lot of dots going and I have nothing else to cast. I can throw this at a distance and nuke enemies and stuff, and the enemy's health reduction is higher than it is on Bloody Pox. So if this does proc, it will override that and take precedence over the health reduction. So it is decent for that reason. Possession, we obviously max this as high as possible. We're getting a lot of good stats here. Again, we're getting some flat chaos, so if we melee enemies, we're getting that bonus chaos damage. On top of the damage absorption, we get the vitality damage and vitality decay, and then we get a nice 30% chaos resistance from this as well. Bloody Pox, we max this across the board. This is going to be another one of our main damage dealers. As you can see, we're doing vitality damage, bleed damage, reduction to enemies' health, and then on top of that, we put Rill of Ratosh on this. So Rill of Ratosh is one of those devotion skills that seems to have like a terrible proc coefficient. I don't know why. You can put 3 different skills on it that say they have a 15% chance on attack, and like it hardly ever procs. Thing is Bloody Pox is extremely good at proccing devotion abilities, like more than normal for like most skills, so it's really kind of an odd thing. But what's cool about this is we can put this on Will of Ratosh, and it kind of cancels that out, and we get a lot more Will of Ratosh to proc on enemies. So we're doing bonus vitality damage there, and we're dropping their vitality resist by 23% currently. So here we are on to wasting. Wasting does a lot of vitality damage for us. This is really good. Percent bleed, so it boosts our bleed a little bit, and then it drops our OA by a substantial amount, 285. So do not underestimate this. This is a really nice, really nice add-on. Black Death. So the most important thing from this one is we're getting the second duration increase. So this is going to boost the duration of Bloody Pox. It's going to have a chance to confuse enemies, and then we get some bonus damage out of it as well. So it's not bad at all. On the Shaman side, we have 1 point in Mogdrogan's Pact, and then 10 out of 10 on Heart of the Wild, 10 out of 10 on Oakskin. As I've stated before, really nice health buff here, really good armor, health regeneration, pierce resistance, and then this reduces bleed poison duration on us, which is always really good. I love this skill. I think it's very good. 16 out of 16 on Devouring Swarm, so we don't want to pump this higher again, like I've stated. Past 16, the scaling is pretty bad, and the damage on Devouring Swarm is nothing to really go home about. It's a decent ability, but I don't want to focus on this one as a primary damage dealer. What's nice about this is we get a huge vitality and bleed resistance debuff on enemies. Super good, so that's why we put 16 points there. Grasping Vines, I put 1 point at each one of these, and again, I stand by this. I think this is a great skill, and it works a lot like Bloody Pox. It procs devotion abilities at a high crazy amount. Even with 2 points, this chance to root enemies is really good. So it's a good CC, locks enemies down, and then it just procs Twin Fangs over and over. And as you can see, Twin Fangs is doing main hand damage, so we're getting a lot of damage out of that. It's doing Pierce, which we don't worry about too much, but it is doing Vitality, and then 45% of that damage is converted into health. So this ends up being a really strong skill, because we root them down and then it just spams Twin Fangs, ends up doing a lot of damage. 1 point in Wendigo Totem and 1 point into Blood Pack. So these are 1 pointers because we are getting a bunch of extra points for 1 point, obviously. I'm not a huge fan of this ability. It's much better for melee type characters in my opinion. This totem really doesn't proc or do its ability unless an enemy is next to it and next to you. So you basically have to be like next to the totem for it to really matter, to get that heal and everything and for it to do its damage. But overall it's not bad, and we can kind of abuse it and use it to our advantage because we are standing melee sometimes, even though we don't want to. Obviously some monsters get up to us. One thing that is nice about this is we are getting a flat vitality damage there, so that stacks really well, like I said earlier, and we're getting some percent vitality and bleed. So it's not terrible, and we get a chance to convert, some of that damage into health. Storm Totem, we max this, obviously, and then we're going to put 1 point over here to convert all that lightning into vitality damage. So normally I don't like running Dying God, but in this case we are running it simply because we can vamp enemies' life so much. This does drain our health when it's active, but we're getting a huge crit damage bonus, we're getting tons of vitality, chaos damage, total speed, some retaliation damage, and chance to terrify enemies when they hit us. So again, we can really abuse this because of the fact that we're vamping so much life. So we have Jackal, just because we want to get over to the Dying God. We do get some all damage out of this, which is very strong with this setup. All damage for any setup is really good, so all damage is always nice. Boosts all of our damage all around. Have Sailor's Guide, Eel. We took Staff of Ratosh, so we don't really get any damage out of this, but we do get defensive ability. We do get Aether Resistance. This one right here is really not useful, but we do get percent OA, we get percent health, vitality resist, we get flat health. So this is really good all around. We get really good resist, we get really good health, and we get some percent OA. Like I said before, this build is a little lacking on the OA. It's lower than I would like it to be, but it's still good. Panther, obviously getting some OA, some base stats. All damage, energy, regen, and then we're getting some crit and OA here, so it's really nice. Solemn Watcher, as you can see, getting some nice defensive ability and some nice resist. It's a nice constellation for giving some reflect damage reduction as well, and it also gives us some good beefy stats, which I really like. Alright, so let's scroll down to here. We're using Crane, so we're getting a lot of good resist here. This is going to be giving us all damage, some good resistances. It also reduces the requirement to use main hands and off hands, spirit requirements by 10%. So that's kind of important with this setup. Raven, get some energy regen, OA, again all damage, very nice. And Hawk, we're using this obviously for the OA as well, percent OA. Then we come down here and we grab Ratosh. So Ratosh is really important, like I said before. This is giving us that nice vitality debuff, and it's giving us vitality damage, as well as giving us some other good stats in the tree here. Alright, so I believe that's everything as far as devotion goes. Let's go over the gear real quick. So with this setup, we are running the Valgurs. Valgurs, you can do this a few different ways. Obviously, with the Valgurs, you can decide to go Necro Occultist. You can go Shaman Occultist, you can go Shaman Necro. So there's a little bit of combinations you can do here. I'm doing the Occultist Shaman. So as you can see, we're getting the benefit to the Storm Totem. Storm Totem's getting flat vitality damage, and then we get one more additional Storm Totem with this setup. It's actually really strong, and the armor here, you can see it's converting some of the Chaos into Vitality, like I said before. So this is a really cool setup, and we're doing tons of damage, and we're just ripping through the enemy's Vitality resistance. So that's something that is cool. If you do decide to go Necro, it gives your Siphon Souls the ability to drop enemy Vitality resist by 20%. So that's nothing to scoff at. That's actually really strong. So if you decide to go that route, it's still really nice. Got the helmet here. As you can see, getting some nice bonus stats here. What's really cool about this helmet is it does 1 skills to Shaman and 1 skills to Occultist. So since I'm running both those classes, I am getting that benefit from that side of it too, which is really nice. This weapon I actually crafted. So far, it's pretty much the best weapon I have found and used. Ideally, I'd like to find a Vitality weapon that does flat vitality damage as opposed to chaos, but this is working really good. We're getting a 14% of attack damage health conversion there. Really crazy. Pierce damage converted to chaos damage. Don't really need that, but it's there if we want it. We are getting 1 possession, 1 skills to occultist, and then some cooldown, which is really nice. The effect on this is really good though. So the Mark of Cthon, 100% chance on crit to deal vitality chaos damage to an enemy, and then 33% of that damage is converted into health. So that's good for us, obviously. And then we're dropping vitality resistance by another 10%. So it's very, very good. If you want to look at the components and all that stuff, the augments, you can definitely pause the video. Using the Mythical Wendigo Mane leggings. So something that's really nice about this is that we are getting damage converted into health on the proc here, but we're dropping the enemy's health regeneration by 60%. And I'll be talking about that more here in a second. Eldritch Pact, I absolutely love this relic. I am using this on a lot of characters just because it's really good. So as you can see, we're getting a lot of good stats here. We're getting vitality. We're getting the flat health, health regen by a flat amount percentage as well. 28 elemental resist, 1 skills to occultist. And this Chaos Surge is amazing. It only has a 0.5 second skill recharge, and it procs all the time, and it has 100% chance to pass through enemies. So this is actually going to give us a lot of damage as our dots are going off. It's going to be spamming these orbs and just smacking through enemies and going back and forth, dealing a lot of damage and giving us a lot of free poke damage, which is really great. Mythical Girdle, Stolen Dreams, absolutely perfect for this setup. Again, 1 skills to occultist, getting a nice amount of OA off this, and then vitality damage, and then +1 to vulnerability as well. So we're getting a lot of good stuff here, so that's why we're definitely using that. Mythical Mark of the Forbidden. This metal is fantastic for this setup. So it's adding flat damage to Bloody Pox. It's giving Bloody Pox the ability to decrease enemy health regeneration by 200%, so that's 260 here, so that's 260%, and we're getting flat damage to Wendigo Totem. So that's why I did put 1 point there, because we do have some extra damage from it. This Toxic Gas Cloud isn't anything that we really need damage-wise. It is extra damage, which is nice, but it has a 15% chance to fumble the enemy melee and range attacks, which is actually not bad. It's actually pretty good, so getting a lot of good stats here. Currently using the Bone Shattered Treads. Again, getting some good stats off this. A lot of OA where it can pick it up, which is really nice. And then the Shattering Force, 25% chance when hit by melee attacks. As you can see, we're doing some physical vitality, doing some of our main hand damage there. So that main hand damage will actually get converted into health because we do have life still on our weapon. It's pretty cool, so keep that in mind. And then we are reducing their defensive ability, and it stuns targets for 1 second. So this is actually a really decent setup to use with this. Obviously, if anything hits us, they're going to take some punishment for it. Valgor's Touch, so these are the gloves. So you can see we're getting some good bonuses here. The proc on this is really nice. Life Drinker, 10% chance on attack to deal tons of vitality damage, bleed damage, and then 20% of that damage is converted into health. So as you can see, this build is entirely set up to just, yeah, lots of damage and health gain. It's really good. So we're using the Mythical Blood Fury Spalders. Obviously, we're doing Vitality Bleed here. 3% of attack damage converted into health, so we're getting more there. Health, OA, some good resist. And then this proc is 100% chance when hit to get bonus vitality, bonus bleed, attack speed, and cast speed. So again, this is perfect. It synergizes with everything that we're using here. So I really like that shoulder. Alright, so Valgor's Focus. This is the offhand. Obviously we're getting some nice damage here, some health, defensive ability, energy regeneration, cast speed, cooldown. And this adds a 25% slow for 2 seconds to sigil consumption. So this is pretty neat. You can put this down, and then the sigil actually slows enemies whenever they run through this. It's really nice. It's actually a really nice added benefit to this set. As far as rings go, I'm using Mythical Signet of the Fallen. I do like using the Soul Shard, and the reason I like using Soul Shard is because we are getting damage out of this, but the 30% energy absorbed from the enemy spells is really nice. It actually ends up giving us a lot more and better mana management, so I like using that for that reason. And as you can see, we're using this ring here. So it's called the Mythical Curse Bearer. So I've been looking through a lot of rings. I finally came to this one. I've been using this one recently. I really do like the effect on this. So it's a 25% chance when hit to basically drop the enemy health regen, to drop their attack speed, cast speed, and then drop their vitality resistance. So I think that is pretty awesome personally. So again, we're dropping enemy vitality resist even more, and then this ring is doing it as well. We're dropping enemy vitality resist by 15. So as you can see, we're going well over 100% on this setup. We're just ripping through enemy vitality resist. And then the enemy health regeneration is being dropped by another 100% here. So I think we're at like 420 or 440%, somewhere around there. It's something really crazy. Mythical Soul Catcher, as you can see, really nice amulet. It's getting a lot of stuff that we need here. So we're getting flat vitality damage to the Devouring Storm, which is really nice. And if you do decide to go Necromancer, like I said, this would benefit you as well because you get +1 skills Necromancer. But yeah, a lot of good decent stats here. Good amulet, and then you can see the components and everything there. Alright, so that should cover all the items. So let's get into some gameplay and show you guys what this build can do. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. And like I said, I will have a Grim Tools in a link below. Thanks for watching, and please stay tuned for upcoming videos and builds. Please subscribe.